Welcome into another edition of the Fast Break. I'm Casey Johnson, and here are the 4 storylines I'm going to be monitoring this week. Number 1, Nikola Jokic versus Nikola Vucevic, Monday night at the United Center. Now, Jokic and the Nuggets have a 10-3 advantage in head-to-head matchups against Vucevic, but that does not mean that Vuce has not had some success against his countrymen. In fact, Vuce has averaged 18.8 points and 9.3 rebounds in their 13 career meetings. That includes a monster game of 25 points and 15 rebounds in a road victory in March 2023 at Denver. Why do I remember that night? Because the two men and friends broke their long-standing rule of the host player buying dinner that night. Yes, Nikola Jokic bought dinner for Nikola Vucevic in Denver that night. That was not the case this weekend. The Nuggets played in Minnesota, got to Chicago over the weekend, and Vucevic did indeed pay for dinner here in Chicago. But look, they have a great friendship, but they also have a very strong competitiveness to them. And I asked Vucevic about what it's like to play somebody that he's so close to. He said he just revels in it because obviously they're friends off the court, but they respect each other's talent so much off the court. Off the court, there's another storyline to these two. Obviously, Arturas Karnisovas had a huge role in landing both players to their respective organizations. Jokic is probably the most celebrated second-round pick in NBA history, going from that status to 3 most valuable player awards. And you can imagine Karnisovas, when he acquired Nikola Vucevic from the Orlando Magic in that big March 21 trade, kind of seeing a poor man Joker in there. Now, let me emphasize here, I am not comparing Nikola Vucevic to Nikola Jokic. What I am saying is that they are similar players in the sense that you can run offense through them. They're skilled big men. They can shoot from the outside. They can pass. They're unselfish. They can score down low. They can do it all. Jokic can just do it, obviously, at a slightly higher level. The second storyline I'm going to be paying attention to this week is Lonzo Ball's continued increased role. Now, this has come in light of Kobe White's bone bruise, which is a tricky injury, so we are not sure how long Kobe White will be out. Now, Lonzo Ball has been starting for the injured Kobe White, and I asked Billy Donovan recently how that impacts the handling of his minutes restriction, because Lonzo Ball remains on that soft guide of 26, maybe 28-minute restriction. And Billy Donovan admitted it adds a little bit of a wrinkle to that situation because you don't want Lonzo Ball sitting out for long stretches, but you obviously, if you are starting him, want to have that first stint be impactful. So it's a juggling act for Billy Donovan. As for Lonzo Ball, he remains to me one of the most underrated comeback stories in the NBA this season. It's really remarkable what he has been able to do, and he's appreciating every part of this comeback story, including these recent starts. And his three-point shooting has improved of late. He said that's because the wrist injury is getting more and more healed. He does still tape that wrist injury on a daily basis. He said that's probably going to be doing something he's going to have to be doing for the rest of this season on a game-by-game basis. But his three-point shooting has improved. And another aspect to this with him starting has been his more stints with Josh Giddey. That's a look that both players have talked about that they truly enjoy. You have 2 high IQ players, both are adept rebounders, have positional size. They both like to push the ball either by the dribble or the pass. So that's a combination that both players have enjoyed and Billy Donovan has enjoyed as well. All right, the third storyline is a familiar one. Unfortunately, it is Patrick Williams' continued struggles. Man, his January has been rough. He is averaging 7 points and 2.9 rebounds in these 13 games in January as of this taping on Monday. He's only shooting 28.8% from three-point range. Now, a couple things you have to remember about this. Patrick Williams did get off to a strong start this season. He averaged 5.8 rebounds per game in October. He averaged 11.2 points per game in November. That was an aggressive start from Patrick Williams, and it came following an offseason in which he was not able to scrimmage or play 5-on-5 following his foot surgery. So that is the positive. The negative, of course, is since he missed those 10 games from November to December to rest that sore foot, he has never been able to regain his rhythm. And he's averaging career lows across the board except for his assist average. And man, it feels like every game Billy Donovan is having to answer questions and practically defend Patrick Williams. Now, he continues to start Patrick Williams for multiple reasons. Number one, he does still remain one of the Bulls' better defenders. Number two, the Bulls are a very undersized team, and obviously Patrick Williams has positional size and physicality at times, so he typically guards the all-star wing. You have to wonder, though, how long Billy Donovan is going to continue with this tact if Patrick Williams continues to struggle. And he had to answer many, many questions following Saturday night's loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, in which he shot 1 for 9 and again failed to make much of an impact on the glass. And this is what Billy Donovan and the coaching staff have been imploring Patrick Williams to do, and that's just make your presence felt. You can impact the game without scoring the ball. You can run the court hard in transition. You can cut without the ball. You can hit the offensive glass. These are the things that they want Patrick Williams to do more consistently. And obviously this is going to be a major storyline for this organization because he is in the first year of a 5-year, $90 million deal. Now, I continue to maintain that to me is not an exorbitant deal with the rising salary cap. $18 million a year for a borderline starter, average starter, third-line starter. That's not an exorbitant price tag. The problem with Patrick Williams' contract now is that length, unless he obviously finds his rhythm, because 5 years with a player option is a long time to be connected to a guy if he continues to regress. So Patrick Williams is going to be an ongoing storyline for this season, and he's certainly going to be on my radar this week. All right, storyline number 4. You're going to hear it every week until the February 6th trade deadline. It is the February 6th trade deadline. What's going on with the Bulls? They're going to be linked to a ton of rumors. Why? Multiple reasons, the biggest of which Arturas Karnisovas himself made it clear at Media Day that we're not done changing this team. So obviously these changes began last season with the sign and trade of DeMar DeRozan and the Alex Caruso deal to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey. And yeah, you've heard names like Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, Lonzo Ball in rumors all season. They're going to continue to be in rumors between now and the February 6th trade deadline. And that's because obviously Arturas Karnisovas and his staff are having consistent talks with multiple teams about everybody on their roster. That's what front offices do this time of year. And the Bulls are, again, stuck in the middle. They are currently 10th in the play-in race. We all know that they owe their pick to the San Antonio Spurs unless they are one of the 10 worst teams. So that is really one of the designs to possibly making a deal, is maybe getting worse in the short term to help you in the long term, because obviously keeping that first round pick in a loaded 2025 draft will be important. So let's get to some specifics. With Zach LaVine, the only way I see Zach LaVine moved is if the Bulls somehow get in on a multi-team deal with this Jimmy Butler trade. That is the biggest domino out there for the entire league in advance of the February 6th NBA trade deadline. It's very well documented Jimmy Butler wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. It's also well documented that Bradley Beal has a no trade clause, so he can gum this up. But if he somehow waives that no trade clause and Phoenix is able to acquire Jimmy Butler, that's where you're going to see multiple teams get involved in that deal. The Milwaukee Bucks, who do have interest in Zach LaVine, will be one of those teams trying to get in on that deal, and the Bulls will be another team trying to get in on that deal. As for Nikola Vucevic, we were just in San Francisco last week. Obviously, the Golden State Warriors have been linked to Vooch. I have heard that Golden State's interest is mixed on Vucevic, especially at the Bulls' current price tag. Now look, we all know how these things work. As we get closer to the deadline, terms can change, offers can lower. The Bulls could get more desperate. Do they drop their price tag for Vooch from a first-round pick to a second-round pick? stay tuned for that. But as far as Vooch, one thing I think that is hurting his trade situation is there are multiple big men on the trading block. Valanciunas from Washington is one. Walker Kessler from Utah is another one to monitor. So Vooch is just one of many big men that's out there and available. Stay tuned on him. With Lonzo Ball, I continue to insist that as well as he has played and as much as he makes sense for literally every playoff team out there, I think his injury risk is a pretty prohibitive asking price. So maybe you wrangle a second-round pick out of him as we get closer to the deadline. We shall see. But that is obviously going to be a major storyline this week. And I'm guessing we'll be doing this again next week on next week's episode of the Fast Break. Thanks so much for joining us this week.